Hi friends, Mihai and I many times have conversations about global warming, climate change. And I want Mihai to answer some questions so everybody can understand. It's Mihai. Mihai, what is that global warming, climate change? How they connect? I think most people don't understand what is going on. Can you explain?
Yes. Radiation comes from the sun and hits the earth. The earth warms up and heat and sends that radiation again into the universe.
Okay, so why we have a problem is that the radiation goes up to the space.
That's how the earth is in thermal equilibrium. Yes, meaning just as much radiation needs to come from the sun as much as it radiated back into space by the earth.
But somehow something gets trapped, no? And creates the global warming effects,
Exactly.
no?
So the atmosphere has this property that it slows down the radiation from the earth. It acts like a blanket, and the property is given by these gases that are called greenhouse gases that create the greenhouse effect.
And where those gases come from?
And those gases are the gases that have molecules that are bigger. So most of our atmosphere is oxygen, O2, nitrogen, N2, and argon, R. So the most gases in our atmosphere have either one atom or two atoms. And those do not create the greenhouse effect. But then the atmosphere also has some other trace gases, meaning gases that are a very small fraction of the atmosphere that have bigger molecules, like carbon dioxide, CO2, 3 atoms, or methane, CH4, 5 atoms. And these gases interfere with the radiation coming out from the earth into space and slow it down. And that leads to a higher temperature here on earth.
Okay, so for many years, since we have been taking the fossil fuels, no?
Yes.
From the down earth, no? And gases, and use them, and we have been accumulating all these gases
Yes.
for all these years. And now, why is a problem now? What is going on?
As we've been using fossil fuels, we have taken carbons from underground and burned it with oxygen from the atmosphere and dumped it as carbon dioxide in the air. So in effect, we have exchanged some oxygen, O2, for some carbon dioxide, CO2. And as a result, the concentration of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases has increased in the atmosphere. And because of that, the average temperature on Earth is also increasing.
Okay, but sometimes we see like Texas is frozen, no? Or some places in the earth are getting so cold. How that explains, because it's supposed to be warm.
What happens in Texas is we have this very cold area at the North Pole that is kept in place by the polar vortex, which is a huge stream of air around the North Pole. But since the North Pole has been warming up much faster than the rest, this polar vortex has been slowing down. And because of that, it has this polar region has become unstable, and occasionally it falls off the North Pole. And what they got in Texas was a little bit of polar weather. It was not supposed to be in Texas. It was supposed to be over the North Pole. But because the polar vortex has been destabilized, now that weather was O2 came to Texas.
Okay, and what are some of the things that are going on right now due to climate change, to global warming, like hurricanes, mega hurricanes, and fires, and even earthquakes? I
So
don't know
right
how.
now we have a heat wave. We are going through a heat wave here in Europe. Temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius. There's gonna be 40 degrees Celsius in the UK this week. We have wildfires in Portugal, Spain, France, I believe, Greece. With these wildfires happen now every summer, and they are getting worse.
Or even earthquakes? How come even earthquakes? Consequence of
The,
global
the,
warming?
con- the connection with earthquakes is a little bit less understood. It's possible that so much ice melting at the poles causes the Earth's crust to have to readjust, because when the ice melts at the poles, all that weight from the poles gets redistributed in the planetary ocean. And that's a huge amount of weight that gets taken off the poles and put on the sides of the Earth.
So
Right?
practically, we can say that all the things that we watch, in social media and the news, hurricanes here, floods, and all that, is that connected to global warming?
Yes.
And why they
Yes.
don't say it? Well, it's a big question. That the truth is that they are not connecting, and this is a concern that we have. We need to connect all these, things that are happening. And what about the tipping point? What is the tipping point right now? Why so serious that you do
So
something?
let's think about the wildfires. The wildfires happen because we have warmed the planet enough so that the summers have gotten a little bit hotter, a little bit drier. Now, and then a forest catches fire in the summer. Well, that fire emits a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of greenhouse gases that adds to the warming, which means next summer those gases that were emitted last summer are making the heat problem even worse. That's a feedback cycle. And there are many positive feedback cycles like this, where a small change this year causes a bigger change next year. And all these feedback cycles are feeding on each other. And the tipping point is when let's say humanity stops doing anything that has been doing up to this point, but these feedback cycles that are now happening on their own take over and lead to a massive increase in global warming, wildfires, and so on, until it plays out, right?
And what can we do? You think there is a planet B, an option? We can go somewhere else, or what? How can we do to prevent this? Is something that we can do?
Well, there is no planet B. Yes,
Some
there
people
are.
are planning to go to Mars, no? Like
Mars
Elon
is
Musk,
yes,
Bezos,
yes,
he's
right.
trying to escape.
I would not. Well, the life that Elon Musk, if ever he gets to move to Mars, we don't know for sure that he actually intends to move to Mars. But whoever moves to Mars is going to have a very hard life. Imagine to have to live your entire life in a pressurized cabin because the atmosphere on Mars is so thin it would not support.
So it's kind of better to do something about it, no? To save this planet, and humanity, no?
Exactly. The best thing to do is to actually take charge of our power and take responsibility for our actions, and use everything that we know about how the planet works, how life on Earth works, and try to work alongside life on Earth rather and the Earth system rather than against them.
Yes, yeah, but most people always are confused about what they can do about it. Like and what can we do that has a more impact. The bigger impact in helping with the problem.
Okay, so first of all, we need to understand where do we get our information from and what are the interests of the people running those enterprises, right? And there are a lot of people who are not connected with the huge companies and private interests who have the knowledge, who are willing to share it with their fellow human beings. In every area of human knowledge, you can find these people who can provide you and everybody else with high quality information. Yes?
Yeah, yes. To get good information is something, and then about energy, sources of energy. We need to choose a better source of energy, to do what we need to do every day.
Absolutely. So, as the sources of energy, already for anybody who owns their own roof, solar energy is not only more reliable because you only depend on the sun shining on your own roof, but at this point is also cheaper in the long run. Yeah. So solar energy from solar panels.
What
But
about
there
the cars? What about what we eat? What we choose to
right,
eat.
exactly. So what we can eat, well, we can choose to eat more plant-based food because that takes at least 10 times fewer resources, emits fewer greenhouse gases, and so on. All this information has been already researched. It's very well known how much energy, how many greenhouse gases get emitted to produce any kind of food we want. So we know how to lower
And
our
transportation.
impact. With transportation, well, there's things that individuals can do, which is
For example, here people drive a bicycle a lot, and electrical scooters, electrical bicycles, electric cars, more walking.
for
If the
local
city allows you to do that.
for moving in the city, of course, moving by foot, by bicycle, by scooter is way less damaging and less energy intensive as moving by car. And when it comes to cars, electric cars are better than gas-powered cars, and small gas-powered cars are
Okay, so we can
are
grab.
better than big gas-powered car, and so on.
Okay, so what about activism? People can join groups, no? Like Parent for Future,
Exactly.
no? It's Parent for Future.
Yes, Parents for Future that have chapters all over the world. Parents who only have no other interest than to leave a good planet
For the
for their
children and
children,
grandchildren and future generations.
future generations.
Yeah. So well, let's do this. Let's join some groups and keep well informed, no? Of the action that we can take
And Parents for
to
Future.
make sure that politicians do what they need to do and choose the right politicians, no, right
Well,
leaders.
choose the right leaders, confront the existing
Yeah.
ones, and maybe we can. There are proposals where we don't need to wait for the politicians. Maybe politicians would be relieved to know that they do not have to solve the problem that might be impossible to solve in the current political system, and be relieved of this responsibility, and instead leave it to community organizations who can take over and do what is needed to be done.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to say before we finish?
Yes, it's now or never.
Yeah, it's now or never. It's true. Lamentably, it's true. Okay, thank you, Mihai. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.